Hello, today I'm going to be answering a question that I get asked a lot, and that is, how long should my book be? And the strange thing is that people often end up writing far too much, having started off wondering whether they'll be able to write enough. And that's a pretty horrible mistake, because all the time and effort put in is unnecessary in some cases. So let's look at the issues and come up with some guidelines so you'll find it easier to answer that question for yourself and get your book the right length. So let's take a look at what the questions are and what we can do about them. So what is the right length for a book? Now, the first thing to mention briefly is there's two ways people describe the length of a book. One is in the number of pages, which is the natural way to describe them, although actually ebooks don't have pages, they just have text. And the other way, which the professionals tend to talk about or like to talk about, is how many words. Well, if you've got a document writing software like Microsoft Word, for instance, it's very easy to see how many words you've got, so it isn't that challenging. But let's just get down to some of the basics here. And the first thing to say, as I'm sure you are aware, is that attention spans are dropping, so short books are popular. And gone are the days when you could take your reader's attention for granted. If people get bored, or there isn't enough information, or there's repetition in what they're reading, they will stop reading. And that is equally true for fiction or non-fiction. In fiction, unless you keep the reader's attention, you probably lose them. And in non-fiction, unless you are really covering what the reader wants, again, you'll lose them. And waffle and unnecessary content that doesn't really add anything just annoys people. So attention spans are short, and think about that when you're putting your book together. So in most cases, 100 pages is enough. 100 pages is a fairly respectable length for a book. Anything longer might be too long. Obviously, there are certain types of book, like comprehensive works on one topic, which could be a lot longer than that. But as a general guide, 100 pages is enough. But the thing is, pages vary. The number of words on a page varies enormously. There tend to be rather more words on a fiction book page because there's no diagrams, and paragraphs are fairly dense. But with non-fiction, the number of words on a page can go right down, and especially if there are diagrams, spacing, and so on. Children's books are a special case, and I won't discuss them right now. So you have to be slightly careful, and that's where you tend to end up thinking in terms of the number of words. Now, a short fiction work can be as little as 30 to 40,000 words, and you could easily get up to 100 pages if you're writing that sort of number of words. Some works of fiction are, massively more than that. But if it's the first time you're writing, it's probably wise to try and write a short work and make it punchy, and often editing to make it more readable, if you like, will bring the word count down rather than up. So that's a guide for you. Now, for non-fiction, strangely enough, the word count can be a lot less, and you will get guides, short guides, which can be as low as 12,000 words, and 12,000 words might even be 40 or 50 pages, spaced out, diagrams, key points per page, and so on. But 12,000 words is a bit on the low side, and you're probably better to get to something like 20,000 words, and that will typically be the case if you're concentrating on one subject, just one subject. If you're covering a subject where there are lots of different facets to it, where you'll need lots of chapters covering different things, well, obviously the word count's going to go up. And that really highlights another key point. It should be as long as it needs to be to cover what you want to cover, and no longer. So there's one final tip in this, and I'm going to come back to the topic again, and that is, when you're writing, I would recommend that you set the document page size similar to the final size of your book. Now, you may not know what the final size is, so there's two page sizes that are quite common, and one is A5, the metric page size, which is half A4, and that's not a bad size to set your Word document editor to. And another size which is very popular, particularly for fiction, is called novel, and you'll probably be able to just pick them up by default on your Word or whatever it is you're using to write with. Now, the reason for this recommendation is quite simply that if you have pages more like the final size, it's actually quite motivational because you can see your progress better rather than writing on big sheets of paper. And also, you'll have more of an idea of how the reader will find the book and what size it's going to be to the reader. And an added benefit to yourself is you can see what progress you're making and how big your book is getting and so on. So although it may seem strange to start with to write on a document that small, on a page that small, I think you'll find that it does have a lot of benefits if you give it a try. So that's all in this session on how long should your book be. I hope you found it useful. If you have, then as I say often on these things, do like what you've seen. If you wouldn't mind, you can click on the bell to get reminded of what comes up next. If you've got any questions, please post them below and I'll endeavour to answer them. And hope that's been useful enough to you that you'll want to listen to another one of these sessions. They usually come out every Thursday, sometimes on a Thursday. And bye for now.